So we move on to part 4 of my exploration of this particular machine. So again, I say thank you to Richard for loaning this to me. It's been a really interesting few weeks that I've had this, and getting used to how this machine works. And one of the key points of this machine is its programmability. And it seems to be that the programmability is why this machine was loved so much by those that used it. And it was, you know, the sounds from this appeared on a number of records. Trying to think which ones were. I think there was definitely Bon Jovi in Europe came off this at a minimum. Anyway, what I thought I'd do here with this video is concentrate on the programming and show you how easy it is actually to program it. Now, it was my intention to show you that you really did need the programmer for this, or a clone programmer like the Roland DT-800, as opposed to programming the parameters directly into the synth using the menus. And to do this, what I was going to do was effectively program a patch up. Just let me move those things out of the way. Is program a patch up using the keyboard, and to show you how tedious it is to actually program a patch. So, you know, if you were programming lots of patches, then it would become really a tedious exercise. Perfectly doable, but just tedious. And then what I was going to do is do that as the first one, show you how to do that, and then use this PG-800 to program a second patch. This is also been lent to me by Richard. And it's here I hit a snag. And as you've seen, there's no actual numeric keypad for data entry or a plus or minus switch that exists on something like these machines that are sitting behind me. There are, you know, they have specific down here, which you can't see because it's off camera, but there's an increase or decrease button, and this one has cursors and value buttons on it. So there is actually a way of entering data into the keyboard from the key panel. None of that doesn't exist on this. There is no such button on this. What you have on this particular keyboard is this edit button on one of the sliders, which is on this left hand side. There are these parameter numbers, is what they've said, which are these buttons here, which is basically piano 1 through to organ 9 on the tone section. But all they do is they allow you to select the menu that you want to alter the parameter in. If you want to actually alter the parameter, you have to use this edit button on the left hand side. Now, in part 3 I talked about common issues with this particular machine, and one of the common issues I said was the sliders. And yes, this slider is not a happy bunny. It is not registering all the values through 0 to 99 if you're looking at a mixer value or an LFO value, or it's not registering a range from 16 to 2. It's going 2 to 16, not 16, 4, 8, 2. So it's not a happy bunny. That's probably what I'll say about it. And therefore I can't use it for programming. So take my word for it. Programming using that edit button is very tedious. And thank God Richard has given me this, because I can show you how to program this using this on this keyboard. So let's move on. Okay, this is the part of the video where we do the channel self-promotion. Very important part of the video, I might add. But we must observe the normal parish notices, which are, if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you like videos about this sort of thing or these sort of things, you need to hit the subscribe button. If you want to be notified when videos hit the channel, save yourself some time, hit the bell icon at the same point. If you're watch the video and you like what you see, please give the video a thumbs up. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. The more thumbs up, the more people get to see what you have obviously enjoyed. Also down there, please leave comments. I read them all, I respond to them all, and sometimes they even generate ideas for future videos. Down there is the address of the TMTG community. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, which is an utter bargain, you can keep this channel rocking and rolling and help the production of videos in the future. And finally, Instagram and Facebook feeds. I know many of you are starting to DM me on those two platforms. Please continue. Pop over to Instagram and Facebook. Hook me up there or tag me or whatever it is nowadays we will say about Instagram and Facebook, and you'll see all the channel notices and normal promotions that don't make it to YouTube. But now back to this particular video. This is a typical Sunday morning where I live. That, you know, everybody's out there mowing lawns and doing things, and I can hear mowers going off on the left hand side. Hopefully that's not going to distract from the video from the goldfish bowl, but I don't have anywhere else to film this sort of stuff at the moment. Plans are afoot, I might add, but I can't wait because this needs to go back to Richard. So whether you're programming this thing manually or you're using a programmer, the first and the last steps are actually the same. And they are pretty much disable the memory protect. So there is a switch on the back here, which is there under my finger, which you can just about see on camera. And if that is to the left or to the right, it's memory protect is on. And if it's in dead center, memory protect is off. And you have to pretty much do that for any modification to a setting on this keyboard, as far as I can see. Every time I've looked up the procedure for doing something like that, first thing it says disable memory protection. Then you have to enter parameter mode, and parameter mode is entered, just move that part of the script out of the way, by pressing the parameter button, which is here. And it's part of the edit suite of buttons, which is master tune, MIDI, name and parameter. And you'll see that from the hiccup in a little while when I actually move the camera position to show you the keyboard as I start to do the programming. The next thing is, following creation of a patch, again you need to go back to this memory protection. You need to switch it on. Now, why do you need to switch it back on? Well, what you will see when I start using this is it's easy to overwrite a parameter just by knocking one of these sliders out of position or changing one of these. It will automatically change that parameter on the machine in real time. And it is possible, therefore, to actually change your parameter and then you all of a sudden the sound changes from what you were expecting to what you currently have. So basically what I've said about this is, when you create your patches, put the memory protect back on, and if you want to store that patch set for some reason, say for example you're going to be gigging or you're going to be using this in the studio, then what you need to do is possibly take a sysx dump to a computer or a disc recorder, if that's the what you need to do. There's nothing worse than turning up somewhere, and I've done this, and switching your keyboard on to find that the patches that you diligently spent hours and hours and hours programming into it aren't there. And I've done that, I've been there, I've actually, I can't remember, I had a dead battery on a keyboard and didn't realise it. I spent hours programming this particular keyboard up with a set list for a particular thing that I was doing at the time, and turning up at the venue and switching it on, and it basically had nothing in the memory. So I've been there and I've worn the t-shirt, so I know that. Anyway, let's move the camera, let's go on with programming this particular keyboard. So the steps to get into programming mode. First of all, you need to reach behind the keyboard and you need to make sure that the switch is in the center position, which I've just done. that's the first thing. The second thing is you need to select what tone you're going to use as your bass tone. Now, I know that user tone 4 is an empty blank tone, so I'm going to select user bank number 4 as my bass tone for this particular exercise. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into parameter mode. Now, you can just start fiddling with buttons on the actual programmer itself, but the book does say press the parameter button, so I am actually going to go through that. And you know that it's now in parameter mode because you can see that it says parameter 11, DCO, range is 16. Okay, and if I were to change that up or down, there you go, you can see that changing on screen. Hopefully, actually, if I move my hand out of the way, it might be easier to do that. So you can see how this works real time. So that's pretty much how you get into programming mode. At this point, programming manually, you would use the edit slider, which is off to the left of the screen, which is not on camera at the moment. I can't get the camera to show the whole of the keyboard without having great height, and I don't have anything to give me great height at the moment. So unfortunately that's off at the left hand side, but that I'm just not touching. But that you would use that edit slider to be able to sort of do what I just did with the programmer there in terms of changing the range. But as we have a programmer, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to proceed to create a tone using the programmer. I've got the synth plugged into an amplifier. As you can hear, there is nothing coming out because there is no well, there is an entry now because I've just put DCO 16 in the range for DCO 1. But there is nothing else in that particular patch at the moment until I start moving the faders. So there's no sound coming off this board at the moment. But you will see when sound starts to come off the board as I start to program. And you normally start to get sound when you start to get into the VCF and VCA area, but until there you won't get anything. So I've done that. I've selected where I want my my tone to be written. Now the other thing before I get going is you'll see me press this button quite often, okay, and then select the tone area, which is I4, and then store the tone and then go back into editing, and you'll see me do that often. And the reason for that is what I found about this particular keyboard is that as I go through the programming, if I don't save it often, I come back and find that certain parameters aren't there and the sound doesn't sound right. And I don't know why, but I've just got into the point where when using this, every time I program one of these sections up as I go through this, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the right button and then write that particular section to the sound, to the tone bank, and then carry on. But that's the bottom line. When you press the right button, you're meant to go back into the parameter button to re-enter the parameters. So I'm going to do that. Obviously the parameter button again is off screen that away. So that's what I'm doing off screen when I hit the right button over here. Okay. So I suppose we better get on and start thinking about programming.
So there you are, that was a tone written and stored to position 4. Coming out of exit mode like that, you'll notice that position 4 still has a completely random name, so I'm just going to give it a name. To do that, we press the name button, which is off screen under the edit menu, and then I'm just going to move this to one side so I can access some of the functions. I'm just going to write this in as and then to write that to that position, you press the right key. We don't want to write it, there you go. So the name has now been written as well. So that is how you write a tone. You reach behind now and put the memory protection on the keyboard back on. The only thing you can't write with this programmer is you can't change the pitch bend range with the programmer. You have to do that from here. So if I go into parameter and pitch bend is 74, there you go. And there's my pitch bend, my bend LFO there. You can only change that from on here. You can't change that via here. There's no setting on the programmer to actually affect that particular setting. But I'm going to cancel that like so. What I've done is I've just moved the programmer out of the way so I can actually spin the camera a little bit around like that. Now, in terms of settings, all the settings are actually recorded here, which all the menu numbers as well. Obviously when the programmer is on top of them, it's hidden, but with the programmer not on top of them, you can see, and that's how you would use it manually if you were doing this manually against the keyboard. I would say I highly recommend you don't. I recommend you use the programmer. So there you go. Hopefully that's been helpful to you in terms of how you go about programming this JX-8P. And I'll leave you with my normal greeting, which is live long and prosper, and I'll see you on the next video.